Meeting note takers. Meeting note takers are one of the most simple, but also one of the most powerful agents in Lindy. And they're honestly my personal favorite is like I have a really awesome note taker that has probably like 20 or 30 steps post call, and it just like keeps me informed and manages a lot of my post call action items. But we're gonna walk through a really simple one. You can see on the canvas right here or on the flow editor right here what we're going to end up with. And let's get into it. And we're gonna reiterate a lot of the core concepts as we go and reinforce what we just learned. So whenever you open Lindy, you're gonna have this home page, and right here, like you can ask Lindy to start an agent. You can ask Lindy questions. You can ask Lindy to create an agent or do one-off tasks through this task window. But for the sake of learning, we're gonna do this one from scratch. So if we click on our menu on the sidebar, we're gonna click New Agent and start from scratch. And when we start from scratch, we're gonna be taken to a blank flow editor. All right, great. So you saw the agent builder on the left-hand side. So agent builder, this is talking to Lindy. It's a great place to just ask questions. If you're stuck, have Lindy. Lindy can also add steps to the flow editor for you. So I definitely encourage you to talk to the agent builder. My very first step when I kind of orienting myself here is, okay, we have this flow editor. Flow editor is where you can kind of add triggers and actions to formulate your workflows. But very first thing I want to do is always just rename my agent so I know what it is. So I'm going to rename this guy Ethan's note taker. Feel free to be a little more creative with your name, a little more fun. And I might favorite this agent just because I want it to be highlighted, especially if it's a note taker. I'll probably come back here. All right, great. So now we need to set up the trigger. So like we mentioned in the core concepts is these triggers they let Lindy know when to wake up, or the agent know when to wake up. And we need to select the trigger like whenever there's a meeting. I want my agent note taker to wake up whenever there's a meeting. So I'm going to click Add Trigger, just pushing on this button right here. And from there, I'm going to click on Google Calendar. I'm going to click on Calendar Event Started. And on the right-hand side, we'll see this panel of all the different configurations you can have for this trigger. In this case, we're going to leave it as is. We're already authenticated. Minutes offset is going to join 1 minute early. That sounds great. If this is your first time using Lindy, odds are you probably have to connect here. And so you might see a connect button. In this case, just press connect. Give access Lindy to your calendar. Lindy will only ever uses connections at the point of runtime and for whatever it's configured to do. So you don't ever need to worry about Lindy taking different actions or anything like that. So, but once we have this calendar event started, the next step is we're going to add a condition. And so what we're going to do is, well, we can only join events if there's a meeting link. And so what I'm going to do here is, if you remember our condition step, you can define conditions in natural language. So I'm going to say go down this path if the calendar invite has a meeting link. And just like that, that's all we need to do. So we have calendar event started, and it's only going to pass through this step if there's a meeting link. And you can rename things if you want to keep it a little more clean. I like to. So I could rename the condition by pushing the little 3 dots. Rename is there meeting link. And you can also rename conditions by clicking over here on this field. I'm just going to say yes. So if there's a meeting link, yes. Renaming is just for aesthetic purposes, doesn't affect the performance of the agent. You can add multiple conditions just through that button, and same just natural language. So I could also say go down this path if there is not a meeting link would be another option, and I can just rename this guy to no. All right, great. Now, if there is a meeting link, I want to record the meeting. I want my Lindy to show up. So I'm going to click the plus, perform an action. And just so we're kind of grounding ourselves here, this is our action picker. Most of the actions you need are in the top, the like kind of starred category. But you can also sort by apps. You can look at chat-based actions. You can look at AI-based actions, logic, scrapers, by Lindy. I'm mostly in top or by Lindy, so I definitely encourage you to check these guys out, but this is our action picker. What I'm going to do here is I know the recorder is by Lindy, so I'm just going to go by Lindy, Lindy meeting recorder, record meeting. And now we're at a place where, okay, we have the calendar event started. Is there a meeting link? Yes. Record meeting. And there's 2 paths after the record meeting, after a meeting joined and after recording is available. So I could have my Lindy go ahead and take actions while the meeting is going on. But in this case, I'm more interested in the post-meeting actions, especially once it has the transcript. So after the recording is available here, I'm going to want to do a couple things. I'm going to want to send myself a meeting summary, like I think on email and Slack. and I'm going to want to also set it up so I can ask the meeting questions. So after recording available, we're going to do a couple things here. First, we're going to click the plus, make sure we're on after recording available, perform an action, and from here, what we're going to do is add an action, send email. In this case, I like using Gmail. Feel free to use Outlook or your other email provider, but I'm just going to use send email. And what I'm going to do here is I already have a actually preloaded prompt. If I let me grab this real quick, email user notes. So the most important prompt for me is going to be, so looking at the configuration of this email, what do I want to send myself? And in the body, it's like this body is, keep in mind, is in context of the transcript. And so you can see the email says a lot of configurations here. The to, the subject, the body, they're already going to be automatically. And so I'm going to do a couple of things here. So if we just go top to bottom for the sake of ease, to an auto, it might decide to send to me. It might decide to send to everybody. I actually just want these to be sent to me. So I'm going to flip off auto and just say only send to the user's email. And in this case, it knows the user is me. That has information of whose Lindy account this is, so that will be okay. For the subject, I'm going to change the subject to prompt and just say calendar, event title, and then maybe date and time or something. And feel free to word that however you want. And then I have this body prompt that we can paste in, but I'm just going to paste it in for the sake of speed. But I asked Claude for a prompt here. And Claude gave me this prompt. And you can see we're going to send the user a breakdown of the call, including all details, action items, etc. So now this is super useful. But now I want to touch on one kind of nuance here that you can use to make your meeting note taker a little bit better. Is, well, what if I get my meeting action, or I get my summary. What if I want to visit the meeting and see the actual transcript? What if I want to watch it? The easiest place to do this is in Lindy tasks. So if you're in the task menu over here, all your meetings will appear on the left-hand side. You can click on them. You can view the history. And this is where you'll be able to see hey, this meeting, this video, you can watch recordings, etc. But I want to make it really easy for me to get there. So how could I do that? So I'm actually going to add an action in between record meeting and send email. I'm going to click add step, perform an action. And from this, I'm going to look at by Lindy utilities. I'm going to get the action get task URL. What is task URL? Task URL, I think this confuses some people. It's really just a hyperlink to a specific task. So once your tasks start populating your task view, this is just a URL that will just send you there. And so this action knows what this Lindy is, what this run is, and it's going to get the task URL for me. And what I can do now is actually in this send email step, I already had this prompt set up. So I encourage you, you can look at this prompt and copy it as you will, but I encourage you to actually prompt this and think about what you want to put in this body so that the notes are helpful for you. But I have the conclude the email by sending them a conversation URL hyperlinked. Well, it needs to know what the link is, and so I'm going to actually use an output reference. So output references are ways to reference variables from previous actions. And so if I'm right over here, I can click into this output reference, get task URL output, and this is just a variable. So whenever it actually runs, it's going to be hyperlinked, and this is going to be some URL that's being received from this block. And you can add output references just like above. You can see our record meeting has transcript output references. So these are super helpful when you're trying to get more specific with your prompts, or if you want to manually manually reference an output reference. What I'm going to do after this is, okay, I want a Slack DM just with my action item so I don't forget. So after email sent, I'm going to click perform action. And I'm going to say send a message. Actually send direct message from Slack. I'm going to do the same exact prompt, just like the user's email. It may prompt you to link your connection, but this means that it knows it's going to send it to my email that's linked to Slack. This is because my Lindy account's the same email as the one in my Slack account. So in this case, another way to do this would just be manually put in your email. But just whatever email is linked to your Slack account and integrated. I'm going to change the message to hyper concise action items for Ethan in a bulleted list, also include Slack or task URL. Then I'm going to do that same output reference. So now I'm going to get an email with a longer summary. I'm going to get a Slack with a direct message and with the URL so I can go in and click and look at the transcript or anything else. Now the last step, so we've made it, we have I guess a couple more steps, but after the message is sent, I'm going to add another step and we're going to do the AI agent step. This agent step is super powerful. We're going to cover it more in the next course, so this is just like a little bit of preview, but I'm just going to give the agent a very vague prompt and to say, you are a helpful assistant and answer questions about my meeting. You know, you can be more specific, but we're just going to leave it at that. The AI agent step can automatically send and receive messages in your task view. And so what this does is it lets you go back into, if you click on a task URL, you're going to be taken to a chat. And in this chat, you can go back and forth to your meetings and ask questions until the end of time if you so wish. And it'll have context of your entire meeting. All right, great. So this is looking pretty solid. The last thing I want to do is like, you know, what if a lot of times I join a meeting and my coworkers, maybe they forgot to add me on the calendar invite or like it changes last minute. I want to be able to ad hoc just throw meeting links and be able to have my Lindy Notetaker join. So it's not fully dependent on my calendar. And so Lindy's can actually have multiple triggers. And so I'm going to right click on my flow editor. You can see right clicking, you can always add things if you just right click in any blank space. But I'm going to right click and say add trigger. And I'm going to do chat with this agent. Very first one, message received. And all this is saying is like another way to trigger this is also I can just send Lindy a message or send the agent a message. So I'm going to save this. And how I would activate this like message trigger is now that it's on. If I head over to my tasks, once it's on, you'll see a chat appear. So let's see. All right, and just like that, our agent's ready to go. And so I'm going to show you kind of like a note taker that's like pretty much the same build, but just a little bit of it in action so you have understanding of how this works. So this is a very similar agent, pretty much same exact format. And in my task view, you can see on the left-hand side, you can see all my meetings. So on the left-hand side, you can see all my meetings I went to. I can see the meeting, the transcript. I can record the meeting. And in the task view also, you can see this chat. So this would let me ask questions about the meeting, like, hey, what was the most common questions in office hours? Or if I have a new task, I can also just drop a meeting link in here and hit enter. And this meeting, it would just join the meeting based off that meeting link. I'll say this one errored because the meeting link isn't a meeting link, but just drop the URL of any meeting link in there, it'll join. And then you can also, you're free to kind of click through any of these and ask questions. So yeah, that was the meeting note taker build. I know a little bit slower because we wanted to hammer in some of the core concepts, but hopefully that, you know, warms you up to Lindy, and it's like, you know, it's been maybe 15 minutes so far. You already have 2 agents. We have some of the concepts down, and we're just getting started. What I can tell you is this is like almost a 2% agent, and as we go on throughout this course, is we're going to slowly build on this, and by the end of it, your note taker is going to be a little bit more complex. You're going to be able to ask Slack questions about all your meetings. You're going to be able to turn your meetings into content. It's going to be super exciting.